Hey friends, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about a common question that I had when I was starting filmmaking, which is, can I use real-time 24 frames a second and slow motion 120 frames a second in the same sequence? I used to think you had to pick either one or the other and then shoot your entire sequence in only real-time or slow motion, but that is absolutely not true. So what I wanted to do today is break down that frisbee golf sequence that you just saw and talk a little bit about how to effectively mix slow motion and real-time footage to tell an effective story. All right, let's jump right in. So the first tip that I have for you is to think about why you're shooting in slow motion. I usually shoot slow motion for fast actions that I want to see for longer on screen. So an example of this would be this shot here where Raph is throwing a frisbee. So if we take this shot in real time 24 frames a second, it only lasts for a couple of frames. But if we were to slow this down and shoot it in 120 frames a second or slow motion, it actually lasts for a few seconds. Now this is helpful because it gives us a bit more flexibility in the edit. We can choose to hold the shot longer, and it also helps us just to see the action better. So I also shoot epic actions in slow motion because slow motion has an epic factor. It's like the whole world is slowing down to take note of how cool a certain action or subject is. So let's take this shot here of Joseph throwing a frisbee. If we shoot it in real time, 24 frames a second, it looks cool, but if we slow it down to 120 slow motion, it just looks more epic and we can see that epic action for longer. For added effect, we can even do a speed ramp in and out of the epic section just to really draw our audience's attention to the action. To recap, shoot slow motion if you want fast actions to take longer in time, if you want fast actions to be easier to follow, or if you want actions to look more epic. So any shot that doesn't fulfill any of those reasons, I will shoot in 24 frames a second. Okay, let's jump into some post-production and talk about how to edit slow motion and real-time footage effectively. So I use some real-time footage to open the scene. I find that real-time footage really helps to draw the audience in and help them to feel like they're a part of the scene, immersed in the action as they would be if they were physically with us in the park. So I use the impact of the guitar entry to cut to some slow motion shots. The music really gets more epic here, so I tried to match that energy by putting in some epic slow motion shots. I then returned to some more real-time shots. This just helps us to feel like we're still grounded in reality, and it gives us a break from those epic shots whilst we introduce Raph to the scene. If we only had the epic slow motion shots, the story would get pretty boring pretty quickly because it moves along a lot slower. So I used a speed ramp to transition from our real time back into some more slow motion footage. I just felt like Raph deserved some slow motion glory shots too. Then we get into some fast cuts and some real time shots. This is really the middle part of the story. We've introduced the characters and the setting, now it's time for some action. If you look at conventional films, Act 2 is usually where most of the action happens, and it's usually faster paced and a bit more intense. And Frisbee is really quite a fast paced sport anyway, so shooting in real time, 24 frames a second, cutting fast, that really helps to build that pace and add that intensity. So I then return to some slow motion shots as Joseph and Raph get to some of the harder throws in the course. This is a good change in intensity, and it gives the audience a chance to catch up after the faster paced edits that came before it. And this is also the climax of the story. These are the hardest throws in the course, so using slow motion really just helps to add that epic factor and build some suspense to sort of raise the stakes in a sense. The audience then gets a chance to relax as we cut back to some real-time shots that are held for a little bit longer and then fade out. So to recap some tips for editing slow motion and real-time footage together, try to transition smoothly between real-time and slow motion footage using music or speed ramps. Try to vary the pace using real-time footage for a faster pace and then slow motion footage for a slower pace to give the audience time to catch up and recompose. Think about your story acts, remembering that the climax is usually more epic and the introduction is usually a bit more laid back and realistic. So to answer the questions of 2018 me, you absolutely can use real-time and slow motion footage in the same sequence. Just make sure that you do so in a way that intentionally pushes your story forward. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you found some value in this video and hopefully it helps you to use your slow motion and your real-time footage together to tell more intentional stories. If you tried any of these techniques or if you have any questions, let me know in the comments section down below. I'll try my best to get back to you and to help you out. And whilst you're down there, do all the YouTube things, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Also, a huge thanks to Jose and Raph for coming and playing frisbee with me and letting me get my camera out and shoot a bunch of sequences whilst we did that. Much appreciated, you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday.